Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It's Sunday once more, which means it's time for another episode of the Captain's Table. This last week at work has seen me incredibly busy. Over the last 2 weeks, myself and my coworkers have been in the process of doing a near 20-unit turn. Because our leasing staff is on a push to get something like 20 move-ins by today. And they nearly succeeded in that goal. Normally, this wouldn't necessarily be a problem with 3 people at work, given that it would generally average something like a turn every other day. The problem for us, as I said, is that we've mostly just been doing this in the last 2 weeks. And that's because that's when we've been getting keys for these apartments. In some cases, we're being given 3-day turnarounds, not just for 1 unit, but for multiple units. As I told my clanmates this week, who were trying to set up a division one evening, I didn't think I was going to be able to make it because overtime is approved and mandatory. And because of such a monumental push, I have to change my schedule this coming week. So I get today off, and normally I would get tomorrow off. But because we have move-ins slated for the 3rd, again, with very short turnarounds, I have to come in and work on the 3rd so that my supervisor and I can ensure that we have enough bodies there to get the work done that needs to be done, walk all the units, and ensure that they are ready to go, because we don't want to have to go back in there and ruin somebody's day because the unit isn't ready. The good news is, though, that this week is a holiday weekend. If you're in the US, you'll know it is the 4th of July on Wednesday. And I was just recently informed that we get the 4th of July off, which means I, at the very least, will have another day off. And because I'm coming in on Monday, my supervisor has gone ahead and granted me the permission to take the 5th of July off. So I am going to get a 2-day weekend. It's just not going to be until the middle of the week. Now, of course, all that hectic schedule and busy work at work hasn't stopped me from playing World of Warships. It hasn't stopped me from continuing my build of the UCS Millennium Falcon, which is getting increasingly larger, and I'm only just now realizing exactly how big the damn thing is. And of course, it hasn't stopped me from putting out World of Warships content. It has limited the amount of time that I have to play and do all of these things, but I've kind of improved my time management this last week by simply not drinking. And that's a conscious choice on my end to not drink. Been meaning to cut way back for some time, but high stress, and of course being various holidays and family events, kind of have to maintain some level of tolerance lest I end up a messy drunk. But because I've managed to stop doing that, I'm not nearly as tired, I'm not nearly as lazy, so I am able to get more done. Speaking of World of Warships, World of Warships patch 7.6 dropped recently, and I have been busy playing the new US light cruiser line. Well, that's only kind of true. Technically, I've been busy playing the USS Seattle. For obvious reasons. And unlike what a lot of people say, and unlike what a lot of the other community contributors say, I'm actually okay with the boat. I'm still trying to get used to it. Now, I didn't get an opportunity to test this ship before it dropped the patch. I got my community contributor status a little bit too late for that round of ship testing. So this ship, for me, is an all-new experience, much like it is for many people. And I've already had a couple of people ask me if they think it's worth skipping the Seattle to go right to the Worcester. Well, I haven't played the Worcester yet. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to. Well, that's not true. I'm definitely going to. I'm just not going to use free XP to get it at this point. Since I actually enjoy playing the Seattle, and I enjoy playing the Seattle for a couple of reasons. The least bit is because it's a pretty to look at ship. But there are a couple of key things about it that definitely need to be worked with, and you definitely need to learn. Mainly, my chief complaints are if you don't take the range upgrade module on the ship, you have a very, very short range on that ship. It's something like 14.7 kilometers. If you do take the range upgrade module, you finally get more range, 17.1 kilometers. But then you have to deal with the US light cruiser problem, which is the same thing that you have to deal with when you're in a destroyer, and that is your shell velocities are super, super slow. Those things hang out in the air longer than the flight from Los Angeles to New Zealand. And if you're wondering, that flight is something like 16 hours. So they just hang out there for a long time. Requires a lot different lead specifications so that you don't undershoot, and you're kind of more likely to undershoot than you are to overshoot. Which is good if they try to slow down to avoid your shells, because then you'll finally hit them. The other option that I might play with is, instead of taking the range upgrade module, is to actually take the reload upgrade. Now that reduces, of course, the rate of turn on the guns, so those turrets traverse slower, but you get a slightly quicker reload. However, given the fact that the Seattle's reload is 6.5 seconds, as it is, I'm not really sure it's worth it to get, what, maybe a second quicker reload, 5-second reload, instead of a 6.5 second reload, at the cost of adding 5 to 10 seconds to the 180-degree turn time. That could be a little bit of a problem. So I'm kind of hesitant to take that as an option. For the captain skills, I have decided and determined that I'm definitely going to keep the expert loader, because that gives you a 3.2 second shell swap time. If you load it up high explosive and enemy cruiser comes out in front of you and gives you broadside at point blank range, you just pop the armor piercing in there right quick and make them regret their life choices. Or vice versa, they come out at an angle and you were expecting a broadside cruiser, you can just swap back to high explosive. I do have the inertia fused high explosive skill to do a little bit more damage when dealing with a bow-on battleship, and that actually seems to be doing pretty good. I haven't been able to put up any huge numbers with the ship yet. I don't think I've broken 100,000 in damage except in a co-op battle, but that's co-op. But I have been able to do reasonably consistent damage, something along the lines of about 60 to 70,000 on average. I have been able to average something like 1 kill per game, maybe a little bit less. A little a little bit of work needs to be done. I tend to like to play my ships a little more forward and a little more aggressively. It's why I like my battleships with good armor and torpedoes, like the Scharnhorst or the Tirpitz, or the Key. Although the Key, the armor's not that good, but if you're angled, it's alright. And the guns, of course, on it are excellent. And why I tend to like my fast and sneaky destroyers. Still, though, I am determined to make the US light cruiser line work for me. And I'm determined especially to make the Seattle work for me, because I like the way the ship looks. I like the way the ship handles. I just don't like the fact that it seems to have paper armor and a very big citadel. But with that exception, the ship is definitely a viable option if you're looking to get a Witherer medal. Or, quite potentially, if you're looking to get a Clear Skies award. As an example, I managed to utterly wreck an enemy CV. I think he was a tier 8 CV. But initially I took a lot of anti-aircraft upgrade modules on the ship, putting my AA defensive rating up to 91. And this thing will shred planes. Now I opted to remove one of those AA module upgrades in order to take the range increase upgrade. And so far I haven't seen much of a negative impact by doing that. But again, we'll see. It's all in flux. Eventually, however, I will have a video out on it, and I will be talking about it, especially because I know there are people who have problems with this ship and might not necessarily know the best way to take it into battle, or the best way to set it up to make it at least semi-enjoyable, and not such a grind to the Worcester. And like I said, eventually I'll get into the Worcester. Beyond that, there are a new set of ships out for community contributors to be testing. I have gotten those, and I am testing them slowly but surely. I can safely say that of the 4 ships I've been given, one needs a little bit of work, I think. Can't really discuss too much on it, but suffice it to say, it's basically a US light cruiser. The other 3 are actually all destroyers, so was kind of looking forward to playing one of the destroyers that I was given, and I have things to say about it, but they're all things that need to go into community contributor feedback for it, because that ship needs a lot of work on it. The other 2 I haven't yet played, but eventually I'll get around to doing that when I have the time. Torpedoes astern. Of course I say when I have the time, but like I said at the beginning of the video, it's crunch time at work. I don't have a lot of time this week. I still have a guest coming over this week, and I still am in the process of building that model. Once that model is done, however, I'll have a good 3 more hours per day in order to play World of Warships and produce more content, or at the least produce better quality content, which in the long run I am going to do. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of the Captain's Table. If you like the content, of course, hit that like button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like the Captain's Table at all. I know that it's my least watched video series on this channel, but hey, I figured I'd keep you guys updated with something. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.